Morning, dear students. Today we will start the first online session after winter break. We have started with you for the first quarter and the second quarter parts of speech, and we did not finish them yet. Today we will talk about the other part of parts of speech, about conjunctions. Conjunctions or connectives, these are joining words to join words, phrases or clauses. We can use conjunctions or connectives to join words like list of nouns, list of verbs, or list of adjectives, but do not forget, when you join a list of nouns, verbs, adjectives, we have to use the same form. We can use conjunctions or connective to join list of phrases, and a phrase is a group of words without a verb, like prepositional phrase. We can use conjunctions or connectives to join clauses, dependent and independent clauses. We have two different types of clauses, dependent or independent clauses. We will learn some information about them in details later. Types of conjunctions. We have four types of conjunctions: coordinating conjunctions, and we can use the initial for each one to join them together to make a new word called fanboys. It's the easiest way to remember coordinating conjunctions, fanboys. We use fanboys to build a compound sentence. The second type, subordinating conjunctions. We use subordinating conjunctions to build a complex sentence. And the third type, pair conjunctions, or it has another name, correlative conjunctions. We use pair conjunctions or correlative conjunctions to build a compound sentence. Conjunctive adverbs, or it has another name, transitional words. We use them to show the relationship between ideas. If I'd like to add more ideas, I use special transitional words. If I'd like to show contrast between ideas, if I'd like to put the ideas in sequence, we have another. Each one has its own transitional words or conjunctive adverbs. Let's start with coordinating conjunctions, but let's learn some information about them before learning the fanboys. We use fanboys to connect two independent clauses, or independent clauses has different names, main clauses or simple sentences. So we can say independent clauses, main clauses, simple sentence. What is the independent clause or main clause or simple sentences? It's a subject plus a predicate, a subject plus its verb. This is called independent clause or main clause or simple sentence, and we never use a conjunction with the independent clause to form a compound sentence. So we use fanboys to form. We use fanboys to connect two independent clauses or main clauses or simple sentences. That is a subject plus predicate to form a compound sentence. And we use a comma before fanboys when it joins two independent clauses. The fanboys, these are the initial for each one. F stands for for, and when for comes between two independent clauses, it means because. A stands for and, N stands for nor, B stands for but. Nor is the negative form of or. O stands for or, Y stands for yet, and when yet comes in the middle between two independent clauses, it means but. S stands for for. Some examples: if I say Muhammad studied hard, Muhammad is the subject of the sentence, studied hard is the predicate. So if I have a subject and its predicate, this is called independent clause, or as I told you, it's called a main clause or simple sentence. He got a high score for SAT, for SAT. He is the subject, got a high score for SATs is the predicate. So now I have two independent clauses. If I'd like to join them, like the following sentence, using comma, fanboys, that is according to the meaning of the sentence. So when I say Muhammad studied hard, comma, so he got a high score for SAT. After reading this sentence, we will find out that Muhammad studied hard. It's a independent clause, or a main clause, or a simple sentence. He got a high score for SATs. It's a independent clause, or main clause, or a simple sentence. Two simple sentences, two independent clauses, or two main clauses joined by using comma, so this is called compound sentence. Another sentence: Sarah woke up late, comma, for she was studying the whole night. Sarah woke up late is an independent clause. She was studying the whole night, it's another independent clause joined by using comma, for. And for, when you find for between two independent clauses, or two main clauses, or two simple sentences, this is called compound sentence. Let's go to explain the second type of conjunctions. It's called subordinating conjunctions. Some information about them before starting knowing the list of most common ones. If the clause starts with a subordinating conjunction, it's called subordinating clause or dependent clause. We never use a comma before subordinating conjunctions. If we started the sentence with a subordinating clause, we must draw a comma after. A subordinating conjunction is a part of the subordinating or dependent clause. This is the list of common subordinating conjunctions. Subordinating conjunctions like when, while, after, before, since, because. Since here it means because when it comes in the middle of two independent clauses, or between two simple sentences. Because, as sometimes it means because, sometimes it means while, depending on the meaning of the sentence. As soon as, in order that, just as, lest, now since, now that, now when, once, which, who, whoever, why, as long as, till, until, if only, if when, if then, whether, although, or though, even though, as if, as though, even though, provided or provided that, when, whenever, where, whereas, or where if. An example for subordinating conjunctions: if I say Ahmad was sick, as I learned that Ahmad was sick, it is a subject, Ahmad is the subject, was sick is the predicate, so without thinking it's an independent clause. Independent clause, if the clause is a simple sentence, is a main clause that can stand by itself, and there is no conjunction used before an independent clause. The other clause, because Ahmad was sick. Here it starts with a subordinating conjunction, and Ahmad is the subject, and here it's the predicate. So conjunction, subject, predicate, and the kind of conjunction, it's subordinating conjunction. So this clause is called subordinating clause because the first word is subordinating conjunction, or it's called a dependent clause because it cannot stand by itself. It needs more information. It needs an independent clause to have a meaning for this clause. Example, if I say Ali could ride a bike when he was young. Ali could ride a bike. It is an independent clause. When he was young, it's a dependent clause. And dependent clause always starts with a conjunction, and we have to learn that. If the dependent clause comes at the end, we never use comma before. If the subordinating conjunction comes in the middle, we never use comma before. The dependent clause came at the end of the sentence. So on this case, we never use comma before subordinating conjunction. But if I switch the order of the two clauses, if I put the dependent clause at the beginning, we must draw a comma after, and then the independent clause. So if I say when Ali was young, this is a dependent clause, or it's called a subordinating clause, or a dependent introductory clause, or phrase, we must draw a comma after. When Ali was young, comma, he could ride a bike. And if I have a sentence has two different clauses, one dependent, one independent, and it has a subordinating conjunctions, without thinking, it's called a complex sentence. It's called a complex sentence. The second sentence, the dependent clause came at the beginning. So if the dependent clause came at the beginning, we must draw a comma after. Sometimes the dependent clause comes in the middle between the subject and the predicate of the independent clause. So in this case, we must draw two commas before and after the dependent clause. So the dependent clause could come in the middle of the independent clause between the subject and its verb. If the dependent clause cut the independent clause, it should be surrounded by two commas. For example, the main clause here, Ali could ride a bike. So Ali is the subject, could ride a bike is the predicate. Ali could ride a bike. And I can put the dependent clause in the middle between the subject and its predicate, its verb. So Ali, when he was young, could ride a bike. In this case, I must draw two commas before and after the dependent clause. We will stop here, and tomorrow, inshallah, I'll explain the other two types of conjunctions. Good luck and see you next session, inshallah.